How can we tell how close two DNA sequences are? It's kind of interesting when you think about the recent news that says that we share 2.5% of our DNA with Neanderthals. Well, how did they figure that out? And it turns out there's some mathematics here that is not on the straight line from algebra to calculus, but it's actually some interesting mathematics that you could start to do at the high school level. COMAP, the Consortium for Mathematics and its Applications, has created a number of modules called biomath that involve biology and mathematics together in an integrated fashion, and this is one of the kinds of problems that they pursue. How can we map the earth and oceans? How can we design fair voting and sharing systems? Can we use mathematics to advance peace and justice? And how can we model behavior of complex systems like the economy or the climate? And this is a little bit about the mathematics of fairness. There's just some pictures to show you. How do we decide who gets which water resources? This is obviously very important for world peace. And you could start thinking about it with something as simple as, how do you divide a cake fairly among 4 or 7 people? What's the algorithm? Can kids figure something out? We all know how to do it with 2, which is you cut, I choose, right? But how do you do it with 3? It gets a little more complicated. But these are mathematical problems that are written about in places like Scientific American. You can find out about and present to kids in a way they can understand, and in a way that relates it to real problems that are not just all about engineering all the time. Then I went off and asked some science friends about what they thought were some really interesting science questions still out there to ask that we might learn more about in the next generation. And here's some that they came up with. Is time travel possible? Turns out we've actually had some interesting questions about that in the last few months after thinking the answer was clearly no. Is there other life in the universe? And for a little math, if there is, how likely is it that we're going to find it? What are dark matter and dark energy? What controls how cells and organisms develop? How can you take a muscle cell and turn it back into a pluripotent stem cell? What does that mean? I think of the next one as being especially for girls. Can we talk to animals? I think there's almost no girl who would not like to know the answer to that question. How long can people live? When I went to school, there were 3 kingdoms of life. So biology people, how many are there now? Is it 5 or 6? 5? You've got fungi, you've got protists, you've got archaea, or whatever they're called. Okay. So what new ones will we discover? We're still discovering large species every day, as well as all the small ones. So my suggestion is that in facing kids at the middle and high school level, we approach them with basically saying to them, I am giving you the tools so that you can do your part and help to save the world. You can discover and create amazing things. Just think about it. What if you could solve the world's energy needs? Be a leader in huge advances in global health. Not just become a doctor, but become a pioneer. Help us figure out how to feed the world while sustaining the planet. And what we're going to study in this class will begin to give you some glimmering of those things. What if you could predict earthquakes and save people's lives? What if you could help to figure out the techniques for ensuring world peace? And that's really my message. The rest is just giving you a couple of resources and hints about this. I mentioned COMAP, the Consortium for Mathematics and its Applications. They have a high school applied math contest every year. Teams from anywhere can enter. This is kind of a different option from sort of going the pure math way. The kinds of questions that they have in the high school math modeling contests are questions like, how can an airline figure out the best seating system to take the least time? And I tell you, every time I go to the airport, I wish that they would figure it out. How do we separate two populations? How do we decide where do we draw the line between two populations of midges to get, by size and weight, the right ones separated from the other ones? And many other problems, but they tend to be quite practical. One of the things that I'm a real fan of through the work in informal science is the citizen science movement, much of which is run out of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. On the left, this is an elementary school citizen science project, the Lost Ladybug Project, in which kids go out, find, photograph, and identify ladybugs in an attempt to help scientists figure out whether invasive Asian ladybug species are completely driving out the native species. And there was a kid from Massachusetts a few years ago who found a ladybug that the Cornell scientists thought was extinct. They got so excited they flew right down to confirm the finding, and that was a child making a concrete contribution to scientific understanding. How empowering is that? The one on the right is a similar project to trace climate change by having people all over the country look at when given sentinel plants meet certain milestones in their development in the spring. When did their buds come out? When did their flowers come out? And not surprisingly, the finding is that that is gradually moving earlier and earlier in the spring, but kids can be very specifically involved in that. This is a project from the Gulf of Maine Research Institute in Maine. They took advantage of the fact that every Maine middle schooler has a laptop and developed a program called Vital Signs for monitoring invasive species throughout the state. Kids note on their GIS system, or their GPS, where they are, what time of day, what other vegetation they found around, and they look for particular invasive species like those on the left. And they know whether they found them or didn't find them. Negative data is as important as positive data. This is a project that's been shared with Northern Ireland. We'd like to see it spread throughout New England. And on the right is a kid who was looking for a invasive starfish. Instead, he found this cool but unusual native starfish and logged it and sent it in. I just think that's exciting. The Gulf of Maine Research Institute is also doing a project called Powerhouse. This, in partnership with the Central Maine Power Company, has distributed smart meters to houses throughout Maine. And middle school kids with their laptops can plug in and log minute to minute how the power usage, what the power usage is in their house, and relate that to things that, when's the washing machine running, who's using the computers, did people turn everything off at night, and analyze this data and couple it with, or combine it with other kids from their school and their state, and figure out how to make changes in their own family to decrease power use. This is one that's just starting up, but I think, again, it's a very cool way of saying to kids, you can analyze and solve problems of energy and contribute to solving the problems of global warming. So these are some of the sites, and I would now be very happy to discuss anything or take any questions. That actually went a little faster than I expected.